Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says, what is the extent of India's coal crisis? Let us try and understand what is this article all about. There are different sources of generating electricity. First, we can take into consideration the thermal power generation. It includes coal, use of lignite, use of gas as well as diesel. Then we have the renewable source of energy where we would be able to produce electricity from. This includes wind energy, solar and other renewable energy, and at the same time we can also make use of the hydroelectricity as well, where water becomes one of the renewable sources of energy. Added to this, we can also generate electricity from the nuclear power. But as of now, since we are not able to produce enough from the renewable energy, hydroelectricity and also from the nuclear energy, what is the maximum extent from which electricity is generated? It happens to be the thermal power plants. For the thermal power plants to operate, what do we require? We require coal. But in the present situation, there is a grave crisis unfolding. Why? That is because we do not have enough of coal reserves in India. We do not have enough of imports that is happening with respect to coal. As a result, India may face power crisis, says this article. If we have to look into the statistics says, according to data released by Central Electricity Authority, India's 135 thermal power plants overall had an average coal stock that would last just for 4 days. 112 of 135 power plants are operating with stocks that are at critical or supercritical levels, which means since we do not have enough of coal in our stocks, we might have power crisis in the near future, says this article. However, the finance minister has dismissed such claims as well, and she's gone ahead and said that India has enough reserves and we would not face any power crisis in India. However, what this article discusses is some of the factors why we have coal crisis in India. The article differentiates them into multiple parts. What are these parts? First, it takes into consideration the domestic production. What is the domestic production? This is the production that happens in India. India also has coal reserves. India has coal reserves in Chhattisgarh, in Odisha, in Tamil Nadu, in multiple states in India. What this article currently goes on to say is that domestic coal production in India has stagnated since the year 2018 because we do not have much of domestic production happening in India, which is why the coal reserves are not present in India, which is leading to this crisis, is the first argument. The second argument is about the imports. What are these imports? These are the coal that we import from some other country. What is happening of late? Because we are not able to get it from the domestic production, we have to import from other countries as well. But when it comes to the import of these coals from other countries, they have also dropped. That is, it was about 6.46 EG in 2016 to about 4.22 EG in 2020. So what we actually see is a considerable drop when it comes to the coal imports for the country. So the first major factor is the domestic production is not meeting the demand and we are not able to get commensurate amount of coal from the external sector, which means India is not importing the coal from outside the country as well. The third argument put forward by this article is the rise in power demand. Yes, India is not able to produce much on the domestic front. India is also not importing much on the external front as well. So what is happening? Ideally, this should have reflected back in the year 2020. But in the year 2020, not much of economic activities was being conducted. Why? Because we were all hit by COVID-19. There was not much of energy demand. But now all the economic activities have resumed. Industrial activities have become full-fledged. And during this period, what we require is raise in the power activities. Since there is requirement for the electricity, there is raise in the power demand as well. Since there is raise in the power demand, this will require thermal production, this will require coal as well. But unfortunately, since the domestic production and the imports are not happening on this basis, which is why we also have the coal issue in the present situation. added to this, there are structural problems in the system. Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, you are owning one of the power generating units. How do you generate power? You make use of coal. So you have the generating units. From the generating units, you send this power generated to the distributing companies. From the distributing companies, it ultimately reaches the consumer. But what is happening here? Since the production cost, let's assume, is about 100 rupees, what is the customer paying? He is only paying about 70 rupees. So there is a loss of about 30 rupees. So who is paying this? The government ideally has to pay back to the subsidy, but in this particular case, it is the distribution companies which are bearing the losses. They are not able to get enough amount of profits. They are not paying back to the generating units. Since the generating units are not able to get the money, there is a structural problem in the system. Since I, as a producer who own this particular industry of power generation, I am not able to make the profits when it comes to the power generation. Why would I invest in this particular sector? There are no innovative measures taken by the generating power units as well. So as a result, because there is no profit, because there is no innovation in the system, this is why there is a problem of power generation, and this coal crisis is further exaggerating this whole issue, says this article. So what are the various issues? One is the domestic production, second is the import, third is the rise in power demand, fourth is the structural problem. Added to all these major causes, there are these short-term causes as well. What are these short-term issues? One, let's say, for example, in Odisha or Chhattisgarh, recently what we have seen is heavy rain bearing winds. In all these regions where there is production of coal, because of heavy rains, they were not able to produce coal. That happens to be one of the short-term issue. The other short-term issue happens to be transport issue, labor disruptions. Added to this, there was sudden rise in power demand in the economy. All this has led to excessive demand for the coal, since we were not able to manage with the commensurate production, which is why we may face the power crisis, says this article. How is the government going to address the situation? The officials at the Power, Coal and Railways Ministry are all monitoring the coal supplies to the thermal power plants and have taken all types of measures to increase the daily shipments of coal to the power generating units. So how is that we can get over this particular issue? One, we have to boost the domestic production. Like China is importing from multiple countries, India will have to ensure that it imports the coal from multiple countries, and at the same time, the structural defects that are present in the country will have to be addressed. If we are able to address all of these issues, we may not face the power crisis, says this article. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, in the line of defense with growing powers. The article here is speaking about border security force. We did discuss about this issue in our daily quiz. But what are we going to discuss today? We would not be discussing about the background of the border security force, but our objective would be to discuss whether it is violating some of the federalistic principles. Let us try and understand if it is violating the federalistic principles or not. When it comes to the border security force, we have the government of India back in the year 2014. It had introduced one of the notification. According to this notification, the border security force has the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction of what? Jurisdiction of where it operates in a particular state. When it comes to the region of Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura and Meghalaya, the BSF would be operating without any restrictions whatsoever in the entire state. This is what the 2014 notification said. In the state of Gujarat, it had a jurisdiction of up to 80 kilometers from the international borders. So if it is the international borders, from the international border, they would be able to operate up until 80 kilometers. With respect to Rajasthan, it is up to 50 kilometer. With respect to Punjab, Assam and West Bengal, the BSF jurisdiction was up to a depth of 15 kilometer only. But now we have the Ministry of Home Affairs, which has issued a new notification. According to this notification, for the state of Northeast, that is Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura and Meghalaya, it remains the same. For Rajasthan, it remains the same. But when it comes to Gujarat, what was about 80 kilometer, this has been reduced to about 50 kilometer. What was 15 kilometer for three states has been expanded to about 50 kilometers. So it has been increased from 15 kilometer to about 50 kilometer. So what happens? Let's say this is the state of West Bengal. From the international borders, the BSF would be able to operate up until 50 kilometer. This is where we have the state of Punjab, we have the state of West Bengal. Their government is opposing the central government's move. Why? Because they feel that it is against the federalistic principle. Why is it against the federalistic principle? That is because the border security force is controlled by the central government. Now you have the state government which also has the police forces as well. Up until now you had the police forces who were controlling anything beyond 15 kilometer. So you had the state police who were controlling majority of the places in that particular state. But now if the BSF takes over this particular region much beyond the 15 kilometer, the state police would not be able to take action, says the state governments of West Bengal as well as Punjab. So what they feel is that the central government is interfering with their own domain of law and order issue, and at the same time it is taking away their powers, allege Punjab as well as the West Bengal government. However, these arguments are not right, says this article. Let us try and see what are the arguments put across by this article. So this article says that the initiative taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs is good and should be continued in the near future. Why? That is because if you take into example the state of Punjab, what is happening in Punjab? There are drug issues that are happening, and at the same time arms and equipments are also being dumped into India by the so-called state actors and the non-state actors from Pakistan along the border areas, making use of the drones. We have discussed about this issue in the past as well. Since there is large scale infiltration of the people across the border areas, they're dumping the equipments as well as drugs along the border areas in Punjab. The BSF, if it is given the power, they would be able to stop it, is one argument. Added to this, if we have to take into example the West Bengal, what is happening in West Bengal? There is illegal migration. The illegal migration has to be stopped, for which more powers needs to be given to the BSF. Therefore, the move of the Ministry of Home Affairs is right, says this article. Finally, if we have to consider Assam, Assam has multiple ethnic insurgencies, smuggling activities, counterfeit currency issue, drug issue, trafficking issue, so on and so forth, and only the BSF, which has a uniformity across the entire breadth of West Bengal and Assam, would be able to control it because they would have better coordination. If it is with the state police, there might not be much coordination because the police forces of Assam and West Bengal are totally different. Since they wanted uniformity along the international border, this particular initiative taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs is right, is one set of argument. Now another question is, will it actually impinge on the rights of the state government? Will the state powers get diminished? No, says the author. How? As of now, when you look into this particular notification, yes, the BSF has been given the power. They are given powers under the Passport Act of 1967, Passport Entry into India Act of 1920, and some specific sections of the Criminal Procedure Code. All powers are not given to the BSF, but only those powers which speaks about searching, seizure, and arrest with respect to these acts only have been given to the BSF. Added to this, in case they capture a particular person, and this person will be immediately given to the local police as well. Whereas this idea of infringing their rights is another point. Added to this, the local government may not be able to stop the illegal migration, and at the same time the power to register the FIR, investigate the case, still remains with the state police. So there is no infringement of rights, says this article. So if you look into this article, we have discussed that on one side the state government alleges that it is a violation of federalism principle. Why? Because the BSF is taking over the powers of the local police, where the local police is under the control of the state government. But on the other side, looking at the national security in picture, the Ministry of Home Affairs has done the right decision, says this article. But if you look in detail, it also says that the powers that were given to the state police officers has remained intact. Only limited powers have been given to the BSF so that there is uniformity along the international borders. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says the billionaire prime minister. The article here is speaking about issues and concerns in the country of Lebanon. What is happening in Lebanon? There is political crisis, there is economic crisis, and it can also result in sectarian war within Lebanon, further resulting chaos, says this article. Back in the year 2020, a large amount of ammonium nitrate was stored at the port of Beirut, but this was not handled properly, and this had resulted in a grave blast, a huge blast in the port of Beirut. This had resulted in 218 deaths, about 7,000 injuries, damage to the property, loss of lives, and many people became homeless as well. After this particular incident where a blast occurred in Beirut, what happened? There was investigation that was being conducted by the judges in that particular region. The judge who was investigating this case had no political affiliations. He wanted to ensure that people are brought into the law books, and at the same time he also blamed number of people from the government as well as Hezbollah for the negligence that they had shown when it comes to this activity. As a result, Hezbollah did not like this particular issue and it goes on a protest against this particular judge. On one side, there is a sectarian war which is brewing because of this particular protest. Why sectarian war? That is because you have the Christian community in this particular region who wanted to ensure that people, the culprits who were negligent in this particular case, are brought into law books. On the other side, Hezbollah was against this particular order because it felt that the judge was showcasing a part of biasness. So what we see is a conflict between the Christian community as well as the Hezbollah. Back in the 1980s, once again, there was a civil war that had happened in Lebanon where the country was in complete chaos. So what we have is brewing of civil war in this particular country. Added to this, Lebanon is also going through some economic crisis as well. Lebanon's GDP contracted by 40% between 2018 and 20. Foreign reserves have plunged from 38 billion in 2019 to about 15 billion. There are also fuel shortages as well. There is high scale inflation as well. This has led to economic crisis in Lebanon. Added to this, there is political crisis which is also present in Lebanon. So what we have is civil war brewing in this particular region. There is economic crisis, there is political crisis in this particular issue. So this may spill over to the regions in and around and can result in refugee crisis. People may have to sleep without food, they don't have the employment opportunities, and what we will have is a grave crisis that we may see in Lebanon, says this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says IIT Kanpur team identifies a novel target to treat prostate cancer. This article is important from the preliminary examination point of view. Do remember there is one of the proteins called as DLX1. This plays an important role in the development of jaws, skeleton and interneurons in the brain and has an important role to play in the growth and development of prostate cancer. What happens? This is a protein. If this protein multiplies, increases, this can lead to development of prostate cancer. So this experiment currently goes on to say if they are able to manipulate this particular gene, reduce the development of this particular protein, they would be able to bring an end or in fact reduce the impact of prostate cancer. So DLX1 happens to be one of the important protein or a gene. It plays an important role in the development of jaw, skeleton and interneurons in the brain, but if it is increasing in our body, it can also lead to prostate cancer. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says New Delhi to host NSAs on Afghan issue. This article here is speaking about the Afghanistan crisis. United States of America withdrew from Afghanistan. As a result, the government which was present in Afghanistan was immediately overthrown, and what we have is an establishment of the government by the Taliban forces. This can also have negative impact on India, where the security forces have to constantly keep checking if there is any security threat from Taliban or any other non-state actors which is emanating from Afghanistan. In order to prevent the spread of terrorism from Afghanistan to India, what is India doing? India would be organizing a regional national security advisors meeting in New Delhi. It has sent meeting to multiple countries, all those countries which are bordering Afghanistan. Pakistan is also invited to this particular meeting. So what is the significance of this? India has not spoken to Pakistan for a very long time. There is complete thaw in the relationship. We haven't spoken to Pakistan for a very long time. With this particular initiative, we have to wait and watch how will Pakistan respond to this particular invite. We will have more of this article in the near future, but as of now, you only have to remember that India has sent the invite and it is waiting for acknowledgement from the bordering states of Afghanistan. Now let's look into the next article. This article says, will Tatas be able to turn around Air India? Is very important, and this will be part of the economy and it will be explained in economy this week. Now let's look into the mains practice questions. Why is India facing a shortage in coal supply and how will it affect the country? Discuss. The Ministry of Home Affairs recently issued a notification extending the jurisdiction of the Border Security Force. Is this a direct attack on federalism? Critically examine. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers as well. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.